Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. I thought I'd start off the first DIY project for the year a little bit on the light side. I want to test out these materials and see what adhesives will help glue on the bits and pieces that you might want to use to disguise whatever project you're making. Pieces of wood, pieces of rock, gravel, all sorts of stuff. So the materials are obviously from right to left, glass and PVC and acrylic. Now these are just shiny rocks, and this is just a piece of driftwood, an old piece I had in the shop. I just cut a few pieces off of it, and I'm going to use a good quality adhesive in the sense of I'm going to use this epoxy and also my old standby for this sort of thing, which is silicone. So glass I have worked with for a very great long period of time, disguising all kinds of things from the backs of aquariums to various things that I just want to stick on for shelves and stuff like that. And I know it works. It does eventually get to the point where it will not hold up certain materials anymore. Back when I first started doing maintenance for clients, I had put together a couple of terrariums for a daycare, and there was only about a third to a half water, and the rest was above the water, and it had little, water dripping in and plants growing on it and all sorts of stuff. It was actually quite nice, and moss grew on it quite well. And I remember after about 4 or 5 years, it got to the point where a lot of the bits and pieces would start falling off. Mostly it was the gravel, because it's very difficult to get the gravel dust free enough that it had a really strong adhesion. But in time, you could see some gaps, and that's going to be my benchmark. I'm not really planning on building the backs of any aquariums out of this anymore, but I do want to disguise some filters and some other things. So the glass is just there as, like I said, my benchmark for how well all this adhesion is going to work. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rough these up. As you can see, this is 60 grit sandpaper. It is the sanding block I made actually specifically for this purpose. I decided instead of making anything really large for the first test, I think I'll just go with a small piece like this, and as you can see, a small piece of PVC. The rest of this is really quite straightforward. I am going to wipe off any excess dust and then just line them all up and glue on the bits and pieces. Now I'm going to let that cure for 24 hours, which is a little bit on the shy side for silicone as far as adhesion goes. If the glob is thick enough, it may not be fully cured on the center bit, because silicone cures by access to oxygen. And like I said, I'm gluing on a rock, and there's a fair amount of distance between the outside parts and the inside. But I'm trying to do this as a comparison with the different types of materials, and I know glass will work really well, and I'm going to see how the other two hold up against it. So it's a fair enough test. And as far as epoxy goes, it'll be fully cured in the 24 hours, so it will definitely be fine for this. Now, I'm not really measuring out specific amounts of the materials as far as the glue goes or the size of it. Again, this is just a quick test. If I find there's an issue with either of them or any of them, then I might think about redoing this. But the one I'm most curious about, and the one I'm hoping the most for, is the acrylic. It is a material, as you know, if you watched my channel, is a material I build an awful lot of things out of. So for this to actually work for it will be really nice, because that means I can weld up all kinds of different projects and then put other materials on them as well. So I don't have to, strictly have something that's clear. Allow me to disguise some filters. I do have that PVC filter I put together before the break, and I'm definitely going to do some stuff with that. But it would be also really kind of nice to have a side-by-side comparison with an acrylic version. So fingers crossed, we'll see how this all goes. And again, I'm not really being picky about the shape or size of the rocks either. Again, this is just to see, can I get this to adhere and adhere well, simply by roughing up the surfaces. Now, off camera, I had done one more thing. I have often stuck epoxy on acrylic and as a test and to see if it will actually glue it. I know it doesn't, but I want to show it to you guys one more time. I'm just going to take a scrap piece and I'm just going to smear it on like this, and I'm going to let that cure. And we'll see how it all goes. So that's it. This is the setup, and now we're going to let this cure for 24 hours, and we'll see how it turns out. So on the far right, there it is there. This is just a piece, and now I'm not putting any pressure on this at all, and then I'm going to just pop it off. That is 1/8 inch acrylic, and you saw there's no flex whatsoever in material as I just put a little bit of pressure on it and it comes right off. Epoxy does not stick to acrylic, not like that anyway. So this is my benchmark. This is the one I know works, and I am going to try and force these off. And I am actually putting a lot of force on this. This is a lot of effort to try and get this to move, and as you can see, they're not coming off. Both materials work really well. I don't really do an awful lot of epoxy with glass, but I know in the future I can, because that was actually very well adhered to. Now this is the PVC, and then watch this one here. This one does wiggle a little bit. That is wood with silicone, and this is the rock with silicone. As you can see, the rock is actually really quite solid on there. And then that is just a little bit of flex you can see there. It could be because it's not fully cured yet, but as you can see here, the epoxy is really well. Yeah, that's not the wood moving on the piece of PVC. That is the wood glued to it that I'm actually bending the PVC with. This here is interesting. I can, with very little effort, pop these off. So that means, and also the other reason for doing that is I wanted to make sure that it was cured all the way through, and it is. So this is mostly just, not a whole lot of effort. It's not adhering as well as I would like it to. So silicone with PVC is probably a no-go, not especially in the long term. But as far as epoxy goes, I can't pry this off, which is really good. Now, obviously I'm going to have to test this a little bit more, and also I'm going to have to stick one of these in an aquarium for a little bit and see if water also changes how it works out. But that's a good start. That is definitely good enough for at least the short-term projects. So I'm going to try this out here. I know it's not going to work. There's just no, but unfortunately I'm sorry it's off camera a little bit. I am going to try and pry these off with the utility knife, and I just give up after a few moments. It is actually glass and all materials. They glue really well together. Alright, this is the one that matters. This is the one I was very anxious to see how it turned out. And as you can see, it is solid. This is actually really good. I'm very happy. And remember, at the beginning of this, I had stuck a little bit of epoxy on just like a piece of, like a stir stick, and I could pop it off with ease. After this is, well, there you go. After this is roughed up and, as you can see, cured, the silicone is still probably a little bit better on this than the PVC, but it is not anywhere near the glass. I mean, I can't pry the one off the glass. But there you go. Now this, though, is what I'm really happy about, and I can't get this off. So definitely let me know in the comments below what you think of this, because I do want to do some filter disguises and other stuff, and this is definitely a step in the right direction. I want to definitely move forward with this. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.